This sauerkraut soup is packed full of flavor, texture, and nutrients. With the weather getting colder, this soup will definitely warm your toes. In my pot, I'm adding in a couple tablespoons of olive oil, 1 cup of finely diced onions, 2 stalks of celery, and 2 diced carrots. Adding a little salt and black pepper, cooking and stirring for 3 to 4 minutes or until the veggies start to soften. Onions, celery, and carrots are always a great start to a soup. To add a little smoky flavor to the soup, I'm adding in a slice of diced bacon, cooking and stirring for another 2 to 3 minutes. And for another depth of flavor, I'm adding in a couple tablespoons of tomato paste, stirring in the tomato paste to incorporate and cooking for another minute or 2. I think the tomato flavor really adds well with the sauerkraut. Now I'm slowly adding in 6 cups of chicken broth and turning my heat up to bring this up to a simmer. I'm using a homemade chicken broth, but if you're using a canned or boxed, choose a low sodium. The seasoning is real simple. I'm adding in about a 1/4 teaspoon of thyme for a little earthiness. You could also add in a couple bay leaves, giving that a stir, bringing up to a simmer, and cooking for 15 minutes. Now the star of the show, the sauerkraut. This is a brand from Aldi's. It is a 24-ounce container of sauerkraut that I rinsed and drained. I just lightly rinsed to remove some of the excess salt. Adding in 3 medium peeled and diced potatoes. You could also add beans to the soup. Bringing this back to a simmer and cooking for another 10 to 15 minutes or until the potatoes are tender. And we are almost ready to eat. Give the soup a taste test for any seasonings. Here I have 2 cups of cooked chicken, and this really rounds the sauerkraut soup off to a hearty meal. Adding a little salt and black pepper, giving that a good stir, and cooking for another 2 to 3 minutes or until the chicken is heated through. As you can see, this sauerkraut soup is packed full of flavor, very hearty and soothing. If you are looking for a different and good fall soup, this sauerkraut soup is the ticket. I hope you give it a try and enjoy. I'm starting by soaking some mushrooms. This is black fungus mushrooms or cloudier mushrooms. They will be dried and you will either see them whole or sliced. I'm rehydrating by pouring over some warm water and letting them soak for about 15 to 30 minutes, and then I will drain and rinse. The other mushroom found in Chinese hot and sour soup are shiitake mushrooms. These are dried and I will be doing the same by soaking them in warm water. Afterwards, I will cut them in slices. I usually cut out the stems as they tend to remain firm. These mushrooms add a unique and classic taste to the hot and sour soup. You can find these mushrooms at your local Asian market, or I will leave a link below where you can purchase them online. Now I'm preparing the meat. I'm using chicken, but you can also use pork. I have my chicken cut into thin slices, and I'm marinating in some light soy sauce, Shaoxing wine, or you can use rice vinegar, a little white pepper, and some cornstarch, giving that a good mix and setting to the side. In my saucepan, I'm adding in the chicken broth and turning my heat up to high. This is homemade chicken broth, but if you're using a boxed or canned broth, remember to choose a low sodium. I prepped all my ingredients and they are in sliced or julienne pieces. I'm adding in some minced ginger, the mushrooms, bamboo shoots, carrots, and this is optional. This is a sliced seeded red chili pepper for a little more heat and color. Stirring, bringing up to a boil, reducing to a simmer, and cooking for 5 to 8 minutes. In goes my chicken and giving that a stir. Now I'm adding in some light soy sauce and some black vinegar. This is another ingredient that gives this Chinese hot and sour soup a distinct flavor. I'm adding in some chili paste for some heat and just a little dark soy sauce that will give the soup its color. Adding in some white pepper that will also add some heat. Giving that a stir, and look at that beautiful rich color. Turning my heat back up to bring up to a boil and cooking for another 3 to 4 minutes. We're almost done. To give this Chinese hot and sour soup a thicker consistency, I'm adding in some cornstarch slurry. I have 3 tablespoons of cornstarch mixed with some water, and I'm adding a little at a time. As the soup comes back up to a boil, you will see the soup thicken. Now I'm adding in 2 beaten eggs and just drizzling over the top. I'm not going to stir for at least 5 to 10 seconds. Then give it a gentle stir and the eggs will form those classic strands. One last ingredient, and that is the tofu. This is an extra firm tofu, and I'm just going to stir and cook for 1 more minute to heat through, and we are done. The Chinese hot and sour soup smells amazing. If you love hot and sour soup as much as I do, you will really enjoy this recipe. It tastes just like the classic Chinese restaurant hot and sour soup, even better. The leftover soup heats up well, and it tastes great for lunch the next day. Garnishing with some chopped green onions. I hope you give this Chinese hot and sour soup a try, and enjoy. I've made this potato soup so many times in so many different ways. I add ingredients to or take away from the recipe depending on what I have available. This is a nice go-to recipe that is a definite comfort food with easy and few ingredients. You can make it as fancy or as comforting as you like. So let's get started. In my pot, I'm adding in a couple tablespoons of olive oil, 1 small diced onion, 1 carrot, and a pinch of salt and black pepper. Cooking and stirring for 3 to 4 minutes. I want to make a roux, so I'm adding in 4 tablespoons of butter and 2 to 3 cloves of minced garlic. Cooking and stirring for 30 seconds, and then I'm adding in about 4 tablespoons of flour. Cooking and stirring for 1 minute or until the flour is absorbed. If you want a little smoky background, you can dice and cook a couple pieces of bacon along with the onions and carrot. I peeled and cubed about 5 to 6 medium russet potatoes into 3/4 to 1 inch pieces. I like to keep them bite-sized because they will cook down, and you don't want them too small as they will fall apart. This is potato soup, and I like the potato to be the star of the show. Now I'm adding in 4 cups of chicken broth and 2 cups of milk. Stirring to combine and turning up my heat to bring this up to a simmer and cooking for 15 to 20 minutes or until the potatoes are fork tender. As you can see, the potatoes are fork tender, and at this point you can call it done. This is a great bowl of potato soup as is, or we can take that comfort to another level. To help thicken the soup a little further, I'm using my hand blender to mash about 1/4 or 1/3 of the soup. I like a good bit of the potato chunks left. Another way you can thicken the soup is to add several tablespoons of instant mashed potatoes. Give the potato soup a taste test. I'm adding in a little more salt, black pepper, and of course you know I like a little cayenne pepper. Stirring to combine. I have about 2 cups of leftover cooked chicken, and to make it really comforting, in goes about a cup of grated cheese, and I'm using Colby Jack cheese. Stirring until combined and the cheese melts. I turned off my heat and one last ingredient, and that is a half a cup of sour cream. This will really take the creaminess and richness to the top. One final stir and we are ready to eat. Garnishing the potato soup simply with a little chopped parsley. This potato soup is so easy and delicious. You can see that you can add the spices that you like and really make this potato soup your own. I hope you give this easy potato soup a try and enjoy. If you like this video recipe, please hit the like and subscribe button. Remember to hit the bell next to the subscribe to make sure that you get my future video recipes. You can also find me on Facebook and at my website. Feel free to share this recipe and my channel with your friends and family. And until next time, much love!